Good evening. Welcome to Mental Health Monday.
Hi. Y'all come on in. Come on in. I hope everybody's had a wonderful Monday. Whoop,
Oh,
sorry.
don't fall.
I got a new little table, so
Oh,
I haven't worked everything out yet. So I'm gonna try to follow along tonight on Facebook to see why we're not able to see some people's comments.
yeah, I'm going to try to keep tabs to tag some people. It looks like we have a few people on. Make sure you say hi. Let us know who you are.
Please. So last week, during the show, we actually got some feedback about a topic. And so that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So we are excited about talking about
Hi,
caregiver
Miss
concerns.
Yolanda. I'm sorry, Yolanda. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, that's okay. I'm
Hey,
gonna mute.
Kendra.
You can see her.
Yeah, I'm looking on Facebook.
Oh, okay.
Hey,
Hey, Miss
Charlotte.
Lavender.
Yeah, I have it open on my phone too.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Make sure you say something when you come on so we'll see that you're there. And tag some people. What's our topic again, Yolanda?
Caregiver concerns.
So
Caregiver concerns. I'm actually trying to find the actual comment from last week.
oh, okay. Hey DJ. My cousin Dan is everybody's caregiver. He keep the highway lit up.
So it's actually being a caregiver for older parents or grandparents and how to deal with the emotions of seeing parents get older.
Yeah. And can I add to that though? Because I think it's just a natural part of the conversation coming from an education background, being a caregiver to a special needs child. Uh, I think that is a weight that isn't often talked about as well. So,
Okay.
so kind of two different ends of the spectrum, but so that's another story for another day. Um, but yeah, I think that both of those are and sometimes some people uh have to do them both. So we can start with a definition of a caregiver, if that's okay, Yolanda.
Okay, I had to mute you because I was trying to type it in Facebook because when I
Okay.
type it over here, it does something strange. So
Kendra's
yeah,
internet.
you want me to start or you want to?
Okay, so I just for the sake of clarity, when we say caregiver, we are referring to a person or people who provide direct care for someone who is chronically ill. So just for the sake of clarity, when we say caregiver, that is what we're talking about. And so for those of you who have joined us already, um, are any of you now, or have you ever been in the position of being a caregiver to an older parent or grandparent, or maybe even a child?
Nobody. Somebody out there has to be a caregiver or have
Kendra has,
anyone.
Charlotte. Okay, we have a few. All right, so Shane is currently a caregiver. Charlotte and Kendra have been in the past. Rosita is currently a caregiver.
Miss Rosita says she's a caregiver to her husband.
Mm-hmm.
And that carries a lot of weight.
Mm-hmm. So for those of you who are, well, let me ask this. For those of you like Kendra and Charlotte have been current caregivers in the past, is there anything that you would say to those who are currently caregivers? Maybe any advice that you would give them? And for those who are current caregivers, Yolanda, what you think? Maybe we can invite somebody on to share their experience in their.
Yeah.
Hi, Miss Lavonda. Is there anybody that's either of you who are currently caregivers, or even if those of you who have been in the past, would you be willing to come join us on screen and share?
So before my dad passed, I was a caregiver to him, but before he passed and before he had his accident, we had a team. And so we would take turns. Now I was the main person taking care of most of his business, but like my uncle would go over
Mm-hmm.
at 10 and 1, I believe, to make sure that he had his medicine.
Mm-hmm.
My sister would do like the 8 o'clock, and then I would go in the afternoon and just follow up throughout the day. But most of the time, he would end up coming by the office at some point during the day.
Mm-hmm. So they said, Kamisha said, try to keep your sanity. Kendra said, give yourself grace. Charlotte said, you have to pray daily because a lot of times they get really mean.
Hmm. And it can be overwhelming, especially when you are working and you have your own family that you have to care for. And me and one of my friends were talking recently, and the thing is, you don't necessarily recognize it when you're in it. Like it can be frustrating because they're not the person that you're used to
Yeah.
engaging with. So
Mhm.
you know that they're sick, but it's difficult for you. And I think a lot of times what we forget is, if it's frustrating for you, imagine how frustrating it is for them that they're not themselves.
Yeah. They're having to depend on people and lose their independence. Not every battle is worth fighting. That's a good point, Kendra. Because I would imagine that they are fighting to maintain some independence, and their pride, is being challenged because they're probably used to being able to do everything for themselves. So I've never had to be or been tasked with being a primary caregiver. I have helped with family members, that were battling illnesses. When my dad was sick, I wanted to quit college to take care of him, but he would not have it. Um, he absolutely would not have it. Um, and so I've never been, like I said, primary, but assisted. And I know, just the emotional toll or the emotional weight that was. Um, and I think I maintained some guilt for not being there more often. Um, but I can imagine, just having to do it every day in and day out, just dealing with all of the things, and trying to find that balance, right, between making sure that your loved one has what they need, and they're being tended to, and you still doing what needs to be done, because your life doesn't stop.
It
uh
does.
you take on this role, it doesn't need to slow down. uh so
Mm-mm. Nope.
um so
And
is
I don't know. The sad part about it is,
what were you saying, Yolanda?
oh, you were talking about their independence, and I think a lot of times that's where they're mean,
Yeah.
or they're difficult to deal with, is because they are trying to keep their independence.
Yeah, they don't want to give that up,
Hmm.
and rightfully, understandably so.
Yes. And I think as the caregiver, a lot of times we don't put ourselves in their
Hmm.
shoes.
Yeah, like, think about how you would feel if you could no longer do um the things that you're used to doing. You didn't have that independence.
Hmm. And so, if nothing else, I hope that tonight, at the end of the night, you all are able to kind of look at it in a different light, and that you're helped if you are a caregiver or foresee yourself having to be one in the future.
Hmm.
Kamisa said they will not let you help. How does that feel?
That's one of the most frustrating parts. I think while we're waiting for that response, I would think that would tie back into, I think Kendra said it earlier, not every battle is worth fighting. Sometimes I think that we want to um, do do everything and do things a certain way, and I think it may be beneficial for you to ask yourself, okay, if I let them have their way on this, what harm would it do? Right? Like, you may want to feed them because you want to get it done, you know what I mean, and so you can wash the dishes and go on and do what you need to do. But if you let them feed themselves and it takes an hour and a half instead of the 20 minutes it would have taken for you to do it, is, is it worth it? Like, is it worth it to fight that battle with them? Or, if they want to make their own sandwich, but they're going to make a mess, or whatever the case is, like, can you give sometimes a little bit and let them maintain a certain level of independence, um, or a certain degree of independence, even if it's going to push your schedule back, or, you can't get things done as quickly. What it costs you, would it be worth it because of what it would give to them?
Right.
And again, I'm just thinking out loud because I've never been in this position, but I've seen it and I know how challenging it can be. So, I know it's not easy for her. We both try to be independent and she truly doesn't get it. Yeah, sometimes it's hard because our concern, for our loved ones, part of it is you don't want anything to happen to them, and you feel like, I'm presuming, let me just say, you don't want anything to happen to them, and so you feel like, let me do it so that I'll know that they're okay. But again, it's finding that balance and creating those boundaries, like, okay, I'm going to help, but I'm going to let them do what they can do, even if I'm stressed, or it's not how I want it to be. What does it do for them?
Right. That was one of the hardest things. And I think if I had it to do over what I know now, yes, I would have probably let him do more things. But it's out of fear. You like, well, I don't want you to fall, or
Yeah.
I don't want you to take more medicine than what you need, because that can be dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah.
So all those things.
And I think sometimes it would probably be like when we have younger children, it's like, here, let me do this for you. Let me open this for you because you want to go ahead and get it done. When they can do it, it just may take them longer, or you want to pick them up and carry them because, if you got to walk with them and hold their hand, it's going to take you twice as long to get there. But sometimes that's a sacrifice worth making just because of what it would do for them.
How do you think that you're able to see it in that perspective?
What makes you able to?
Yeah, I'm talking about you, because I wasn't able to see it the way you seeing it until after the fact.
Because I'm not in it. I don't have an emotional tie to it. So I can look at it, objectively and say, okay, well, I can see how if I fix their sandwich, I can go ahead and clean up and get it done. But if they want to fix it, then they're going to have crumbs everywhere. And then I'm going to have to go in and clean up. And you're thinking about all the other things you have to do afterwards, or in addition to that. And I can just look at it with no emotional connection, just look at the situation objectively and say, hey, maybe, I can figure out a way to let them do it themselves, even if it's going to be a bigger mess for me, because that's going to make them feel better, which means now I don't have to deal with them having an attitude or being snappy or, upset with me. I'll just have to go and clean the mess up.
Okay. Miss
Shan
Gwen said
says,
patient. Oh, I'm
go
sorry.
ahead.
Miss Gwen said patience is something we all have to work on.
Yes, we
And
do.
yeah, Lashandra said, I try to give independence instead of saying that task is going to make you tired, such as washing clothes, making multiple trips from the laundry room. Well, yeah, because she probably already knows that it's gonna make her tired, but she probably wants to do it anyway.
Yeah. To feel accomplished, because she may look at it like I'm going to be tired anyway. So at least I'll have something to do.
Mm-hmm.
Or I can see something that I've done and I have a reason that I'm tired.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you think about it, like if you took everything away from them, right? If you did everything for them, what is the point? Like, what do they get to do? What do they get to do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I know it comes from a place of love and protection, and wanting the best from them. But sometimes to them, it may feel like you're taking their life away. Like if they can't drive, they can't go visit friends, they can't travel, they can't go to Walmart and walk around like they used to. What are you leaving them to do?
Good point. I think you have to find a balance though, between their independence and them being unsafe. And
Yes.
so I'll never forget. I went to my dad's house one day, and he loved to cook, and he can cook hot water cornbread like good. Like my mama can cook, but my dad's hot water cornbread was fire. Okay. So he was cooking the hot water cornbread, and I was looking at him. Well, the eye that the hot water cornbread was on, um, he he was trying to turn the other eye down, but the food wasn't on that eye. Like actually, he was trying to turn it off, but he was turning it on. And I was trying to tell him, but he wasn't getting it. So I didn't say anything, and I just waited until he finished cooking everything. And once he finished cooking everything, I made sure that everything was turned off. And then I left because I was not leaving with their eye on. Like,
yeah. And I think sometimes maybe if you give them that kind of independence or a degree of it, it's easier to compromise because you give them some leverage. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, this is what you can do, but let's find a way for you to do the things you want to do in a way that's safe. You know what I mean? That may make it a little bit easier. Because
right. And it's
they'll
all
still
about
pull that I'm the parent card on you most. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, because I used to have to hear that I'm your daddy. So what I did after that was I got things that he could microwave.
Yeah.
And I was like, don't you think that this is easier? You don't have to turn the stove on. But it had to be that he was in agreement with it.
Yeah.
He had to want to do those things.
You have to
sometimes
empower
you
them.
play the game with them.
Yeah, you have to make them feel empowered, like it's their, like they have the control, and not just make them feel like that, but find a way to empower them. Because again, if they have life but they don't have any quality of life, then you're fixing one problem and creating another one. Shay, what is your mama doing on the step ladder?
Are you talking about your mama or your grandmama?
Who, Shan?
Uh-huh. Oh, Miss Gwen, that's a really good way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Oh, your mama. Okay.
So you may need to take all the step letters out of the house. Then she'll
Oh
probably
my.
climb up on the chair, huh?
Honey, I know her mama personally. Mm-mm.
Yeah. I think it is sometimes important that we put ourselves in their situation. Uh it is two shins on here. I'm sorry. So that way
Oh,
you
it is.
can try to
Oh,
wipe up on
yes.
my
Okay.
face.
Now, Lashandra Williams' mama, mm, she might would let her take the step stool, but Lashandra Hammock Norman's mama, no.
She can't stop her from hiding them. Yeah. No, no. And those I would imagine
My
those are the
bad.
things that make it difficult because some of them probably don't want to work with you. You try to, try to give them some leeway and some freedom, and they want to be climbing up on top of stuff.
Hmm.
So, does anybody want to come on and share their experience, their concerns? Anybody have any questions, specific questions or comments?
And listen, this is the round table, so you just can be relaxed. You don't have to be dressed to the nines.
Mm-hmm. Kamisha, you want to come on?
Oh, okay. So how do we
You
listen?
gonna try, Yolanda, or you want me to try?
Yeah, I'm gonna copy it and I'm gonna send it to her via text message.
Okay. Charlotte said, after my dad lost his sight, he was still trying to drive. Now, Charlotte, you know that man ain't like wasn't like normal people. You already know he was something different.
Okay, Kamisa, I sent it.
Cause who else blind didn't want to drive?
So we'll let her hop on and share her experience, and then if there's anybody else,
Yeah, that's a whole nother level of male pride. Let's see. I am adding you to
Have
the.
is this.
Hi,
Can you hear
Trish.
me?
Hi, we can hear you.
Okay. The only question I have is how do you just relax your mind from all of that at the end of the day?
From being a caregiver.
Yeah, how do you do that?
Okay. Yolanda, you want to go first because you have experience.
well, I think you have to figure out a coping skill that's going to work for you. For me, it was hot baths and candles and some music, or watching one of my favorite TV shows. Sometimes it will be talking to my friends about how frustrating it was, or having a good cry. So it just depends. I think it's going to be different for everybody. Um, I don't think it's healthy to vent. I think that's, a lot of times we think that if we vent, we feel better, but actually, venting just makes the situation worse. So it's a difference in processing it and talking about it than venting.
Oh, okay. Because I just have to get to myself and contain my mind. because sometimes it get it. I've done this before with two other people, my dad and my grandma.
Mm-hmm.
So with each person, yeah, it's different, but you would think sometimes being mean and hateful is not the answer to the problem.
Yeah.
It's not, but I think that you have to remember you got to look at who you're dealing with. You got to look at
Yeah,
their age. You've got to look at the fact that the person you're talking about has pretty much been on their own since what they were 18, 19, and they're 70, what, 75 now? Between 71 and 75.
8.
78. She's 78.
Yep. Yeah, she's 78.
And so y'all are trying to take everything away.
Well, I mean, it's like you take the air tag out your purse. You want to walk everywhere, and you steady saying you can't walk. You need somebody to take you, and it just turns into a whole mess.
And I get that it's frustrating. Um, but arguing with them is not healthy. And it only makes the situation worse. Would you agree, LaQuinda?
I do. And I think that even if they try to argue with you, you can't engage. Like, and I know it may, if that's what's happening, or when that happens, it's like you're trying to get them to understand what you're saying. But I think sometimes you have to realize they're not going to process what you're saying. They want what they want, and they're not trying to hear what you're saying. So I think it only adds to frustration on both sides when
Mm-hmm.
you engage in arguments. Sometimes you just gotta know what you know. Like if you know that's the only option or that's the best option, that's just what it is, and you can't engage in the back and forth. But to go back to what you were saying earlier, or your question, I think one of the hardest things for any of us to do in any situation is figure out how to mentally disengage from stressful situations, right? And so, like Yolanda was saying, you're going to have to figure out how to turn your brain off from that. So if you can get in a hot tub and just completely, zone out, then that's what you do. For some people, it may be music or watching, something funny on TV or whatever it is. You got to figure out a way that when you're not in that caregiver space, you got to figure out a way to get back to who you are and just be yourself, not Kamisha the caregiver, but just Kamisha the woman, and
Mm-hmm.
indulge in something that brings you peace or brings you joy or relaxation, and don't try to figure out what you did wrong, earlier that day or the day before as a caregiver, or what you got to do tomorrow as a caregiver. You got to be able to remove yourself from that space when you're not there physically.
Correct. My mom
Well,
said, I think
sometimes I go to like the park and sit there for a minute
Yeah.
that's a
and
good
just
Whatever.
idea.
sit in my car and be like, why?
Well, that's not
Or sometimes
detaching
I
though.
just don't say nothing.
You said how do you go at the end of the day and relax your mind? If you're going to the park to relax your mind, then do that. But going to the park and asking yourself why, I
Is
don't think is
Yeah,
you're
that's
defeating the purpose.
counterproductive. You might as well stay where you were if you're gonna go to the park and ask yourself why. If you're going to the park, go because you want to look at the water and that's relaxing to you. You know what I mean? You
Mhm.
don't take the concerns
Yeah.
of that space into the space where you're trying to relax. And I think that's another important thing, separating spaces. Like if your bedroom is going to be your safe space, then you don't go when you're in your bedroom. If you find yourself thinking about the whys and the what do I need to do, shut those thoughts off. It's called thought stopping.
Oh, stop it. Yeah.
When you find yourself thinking those thoughts, literally stop that thought and force yourself to think of something else.
Mhm.
You may have to turn on some music and sing along, or turn on the TV or do something that's going to force your mind to go to a different space.
Mm-hmm. And we
Oh, okay.
often talk about in therapy scheduling time to worry. And initially, when you tell clients that, they're like, "What?" But you literally have to schedule time to worry. I call it like worrying with the expectation of solving a problem. Because think about it: if you're always worried about something, are you really working on solving a problem, or are you just worried to be worried? You spent your whole day worrying about something, and you still didn't come up with any type of resolution.
Yeah.
So worry with the purpose.
Yeah.
Write down what's wrong, and then try to figure out, okay, how am I going to fix this? How am I going to attack this? Mrs.
Yeah.
Rogers, we're going to have to disconnect you because you're not being safe right now.
What you mean I ain't being safe? Because I'm driving.
Yes, and it's making me very nervous. So,
Well, I just got off the expressway, so I'm cool.
did we answer your questions?
Yes, you did.
All
Thank
right.
you for joining us.
Yes.
Okay.
And so another way to look at it could be like worry towards a solution, right? Like if you're worrying and all your worry is giving you is different scenarios of what else could go wrong and creating more anxiety, then
Mm-hmm.
it's pointless, right? So
Right.
if you find yourself worrying, whatever thing you're worrying about, ask yourself things like, how can I make this better? How can I either alleviate this or make it better? Um, and
And
so,
can we go back for just a second? I want for the people that are caregivers, I think you have to remember. So there's different types of it's different reasons that people are caregivers. So sometimes it's because the person is dealing with a physical illness.
mhm,
Sometimes it's because they're dealing with a mental illness. And so I think you have to identify what you're working with. What are you dealing with? If you're caring for your parent because they're elderly and they can't necessarily get around the same way that they used to, they're having to use a walker, or they're a little bit slower, they have aches and pains, that's one thing. But then if you're having to be a caregiver because they have Parkinson's or they have dementia, that's something different.
mhm. Or
So
physical disabilities.
yeah, they may still be mobile, but their mind may
Yeah,
may not be what it used to be. And so you're trying to have a conversation with them as if they were the person that they were 10 years ago or maybe 5 years ago, but they don't have the cognitive ability to do that. And so you have to look at your situation.
yeah,
She was saying that her mom, like she was putting air tags in her mom's purse and her mom was taking them out. Probably because she was having periods of lucidity, like, well, why is this in here? I didn't put it in
yeah,
here.
yeah. And so if you have to do something like that for safety reasons, you may want to look at a way to do it that they can't remove it, when they do have those, moments that they're like, oh, what is this? Because you got to think about it. They're not familiar with that type of technology. They don't know what that is. So,
Right.
they may think it's trash or whatever. So you may have to, put it in the lining of their like I was watching somebody I follow on TikTok, they're a caregiver to their parent, their mom with dementia. She lives in a facility though, because it's not safe for her to be at her home. But she puts air tags inside the soles of all of her shoes because her mom is a walker and she'll wander off.
Mhm.
But she has to literally have someone take the soles out and put it inside so that she can't get to them. And so if it's a safety concern, that's valid, but sometimes you may need to look at a way to do that where it is not
Where it's discreet. And I told
yeah,
Kamisa,
where
I
it's
said,
discreet.
put it in the lining of her purse, the purse that she carries all the time.
Yeah. And it doesn't make them feel violated or
Right.
offended.
Because
Like,
you
oh,
gotta
you
think,
think you gotta babysit me? Huh?
yeah. Or how would you feel if somebody had a tracker on you without your permission?
Yeah. So, so I know, like, if Charlotte is still on here, I don't know if she said earlier how her dad was. He literally was blind, not legally blind, like blind, like can't see, but he
Oh,
felt like he could drive because his mind was still sharp. And so
okay.
that presents a different set of challenges, when you have physical limitations, but your mind is still sharp and you're dealing with somebody who was stubborn, uh, from the beginning. And so now they still have all of their mental capacity, but their physical body is not functioning.
Mm-hmm. Miss Rosita said, I'm understanding how Camisa Rogers feels. And I do. I empathize with her.
Yeah.
Because I know that it has to be frustrating because she really is doing all that she can. Um
And I think that's one thing that caregivers have to understand. There is no one way to do it, right? No one thing works for everybody. And so you have to try different things. I think it's important that you stay open to trying different things, and understand that it's not going to be perfect. Like,
mhm.
you don't have to get it right all the time. I think you have to pay attention to what triggers the person you're caring for and also what triggers you.
Yeah.
And I also think that you have to look for resources. We sometimes think that we have to do it all. And I know that in some families, everybody may not be fortunate like Yolanda, where there is a group of family members, who are able and willing to share the load, so that it doesn't all fall on one or two people. But you may have to seek outside resources. You may have to hire someone. I know a lot. Some facilities have caregiver respite, I think is what it's called. Am I
Mhm.
where you can have your loved one go to like an assisted living facility or nursing home for a certain amount of time to give you a break. And I know, a lot of us may not want to do that or feel like there's something wrong with it. But if you give out, right? If you are unable to care for them, what's going to happen then?
Yeah. Um and so a lot of times when you are a caregiver, um the person that you're caring for, they get used to one particular person.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so they may not even be receptive to help from somebody else. I remember this was like when my sister had just kind of moved back. She would be in the house with my dad, and he would be like, "Well, I'll call you London,"
Mm-hmm.
and she's like, I'm right here," but I was the one who was here, and so he was used to me doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Now she was more than capable, but just for some stuff, it was just a no. And so,
Yeah.
and I think in Camisa's situation, she may argue with her, whereas with um, her daughter may be able to get more things done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And even if you are Chance said that's one of my biggest problems is the perfect part. I guess it's my type A personality, but I have been working on allowing things to just happen and not try to control everything. Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what is hard, is just understanding that even with our best intentions, we do not have the ultimate control, right? Like there are some things that you could take every precaution in the world and things will still happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so, again, I think finding that balance is important to giving them a sense of, some independence, uh, and allowing them to maintain some, uh, self-sufficiency, self-control, allowing them to still do what they can do.
Mm-hmm. Kamisa says she does whatever she says. Well, but you can't take that personally. And I know that that's hard. So I'll say try not to take that personally.
Because I would imagine it's just no malice, but just the manipulation. Like, if you won't let me do what I want to do, I'm gonna go to the person that's gonna do what you know what I mean? It's just the nature of us as people. We want our way, so we're gonna go to the person who gives us our way.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's gotta be painful, especially if you are, sacrificing and taking care of people and trying to make sure that they have what they need and you're looking out for their best interest. And but what can you do except choose the battles that you want to fight.
Yep. Shan, would you like to join us and share anything?
I think you would.
So she's saying that she's driving from like one side of Chicago to the other side of Chicago
To take
with
care of.
her mom, but her daughter is probably 3 blocks away.
Mm.
And so it's frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can imagine how frustrating that is. And I would encourage you to um make sure that you aren't developing resentment. I'm sure you don't, you care for your mom from your heart and you do it, because of your love for her. But I think that when we're making those kinds of sacrifices and it doesn't feel appreciated or valued, it can just be kind of natural to develop some levels of resentment because you are the one doing everything and making all the sacrifices. And it's like it's taken for granted. So, just make sure that you are taking care of yourself and um, maintaining some boundaries for your own health and well-being so that you won't have any resentment towards anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I hear beeping. What is that?
Oh, that's me. I'm plugging in my
Oh,
computer.
I didn't know if somebody was trying to get on. Oh, shit. Lashandra says she's filling out paperwork. Girl, come on here.
We'll get you another day. Yeah, we'll get you another day. And I think he has a shortage in it. Oh my.
It keeps beeping. Yeah.
Well, I hope that you all have gained something from this. I hope this has been helpful and insightful.
Yeah. And I
What?
just, my hat's off to, huh?
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, my hat's off to all of the caregivers, current and past. It is not easy. I've seen it done, and I don't know that I'm built for it. If I had to do what I know I could do it, I would do it, but it's more than a notion. And so I just encourage you all to, don't lose yourself in your role as a caregiver. Um, Try to see things from their perspective as much as possible. Work with them as much as you work for them, to the greatest degree that you can. And set some boundaries, find ways to remove yourself physically and mentally from that caregiver title so that you can take care of yourself. Find resources in your community that will help you, and don't feel bad about it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't feel sorry, y'all. Don't feel bad for taking advantage of the tools that are available to you. They may not understand at first, but again, if you um, completely exhaust yourself and you can't because you're physically or mentally broken down, then they won't have a choice in the matter. So
Right. And
do what you
find
have
things
to do.
that they can engage in. You have to find things that they may want to do, whether it's listening to music or a
Yeah,
crossword puzzle or playing a game on their phone. They're still alive and well.
yeah,
Engage them in things that they used to like to do. That may
yeah,
help to take the load off and build a rapport
yeah.
between you all.
And as much as you can, take them places. If there's like a senior citizen center or something
Mhm.
like that, that they can go and engage with people in their age group or just socialize, try to allow them to do that, because
Or
they
even
still,
going with you to the
yeah,
store.
yeah,
Um, they need to get out. They do not need to be in the house all the time.
yeah,
Imagine how you would feel if you were just in the house all the time.
yeah, yeah.
What
So
would that do to your mind?
yeah, even though it may be a little bit more work on you physically to get them in and out of a vehicle, the payoff will probably be worth it because they're probably going to be in a better mood, in a better
Yes.
headspace, more cooperative.
Hmm.
And then that may give you some leverage. Like, okay, if you do these things that you're supposed to do, then we'll be able to, go to wherever or whatever the case is.
Hmm.
But try to help them maintain a quality of life.
Exactly. Because we only get one.
Yeah,
And once it's gone, that's it.
yeah. And I think sometimes our selfishness comes into play, right? We want to protect them. We want to, put them in a bubble. We don't want anything to happen to them. So we don't want them to do anything because now you're fragile now, and we don't want you to fall because we don't want you to break something, or we don't want you to, you know, cook anymore because we don't want you to burn anything.
Or
Um,
yourself, yeah.
yeah, or yourself. But we have to understand that they're still alive and they still want to live. And so we got to make sure that our selfishness isn't affecting our decisions.
Hmm.
Um,
And so that may require you to supervise sometimes.
yeah,
Okay. Like that day when I went and he was cooking hot water cornbread.
yeah,
Okay, I just had to stay a little longer, but he
yeah,
got to do something that he wanted to do.
yeah,
And his friends came and they ate and they had a good time.
right.
And so for me, it was worth it.
Yeah. And it was something that he wanted to do. So Shan, like with you with your mom, instead of the trips back and forth, you may say, okay, I'm going to bring the laundry to you and you fold it up. You know what I mean? Or find a way to compromise in those areas that you can.
Yep. I do want to say this before we go. Being a caregiver is difficult. And so I want to just say, pay attention to how you're coping. And if you find yourself, nothing wrong with you having an occasional a glass of wine or something like that. But if you find yourself self-medicating because it's getting rough, you might want to seek help, okay?
You may want to seek help just before it starts. But if you taking down a bottle a night,
Yeah,
or
the stress is real, and so we need to reevaluate, okay?
yeah. Thank
Any
y'all for
other questions?
participating. Yeah. Any final questions or comments before we leave? Um, Very helpful and great information. Thank you. Thank you.
So y'all can always inbox us a topic if y'all have something that you want to talk about next week. We are open for it. Like, comment, share, and we thank y'all. Y'all have a great night.
Good night.
See you next Monday.